Welcome to this CEO Wisdom podcast with Roy Dekel. He is CEO of SetSchedule and Rentastic and Taskable, amongst other startups. He's a serial entrepreneur. We're going to talk about his background, Israeli born, child of Romanian refugees, sold billions in financial products, did a bunch of impressive stuff. So excited to jump into it today, guys. This one is brought to you by podplayer.com. By the way, if you want to start or scale a podcast, go to podplayer.com. Roy, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself, what you're up to nowadays.
Well, Charles, thanks for having me. You did a pretty great job in explaining my background. So I'm not gonna take too much time to talk about myself, even though I love my background and my story, right? But ultimately, like you said, born and raised in Israel, served in the military, was an officer in the military. Came to the U.S. in 2002. I want to say that I came in the pursuit of the American dream, but really it was just a post-military travel. Came from South America to North America, obviously, traveled the West Coast because before the military, I was in New York and I loved that city. I just met my wife, I guess, in LA in 2002 and kind of like got stuck, for lack of a better term. And not really having any college degree, the only option that I had was to start grinding and do something with my life. And I realized that sales was something that I enjoyed doing. And that was the foundation of everything that I've done in the following 20 years or so. So you pretty much spelled out the resume. I mean, the last 15 years have been all around technology, real estate tech, prop tech, and fintech. But ultimately, happy to answer any other questions you may have today. Thank you for having me.
So, why did you get started into business and why did you decided to come to the US and install there permanently?
Well, I mean, the U.S. part was obviously, like I said, was I always loved the United States. I guess you can call it Hollywood. I grew up on movies, so I believe that that's the land of opportunities. But ultimately, I didn't come in with the intent of necessarily immigrating. But I met my wife, and then I decided to stay and stay long term. So the rest is history. Um, as far as entrepreneurship, I think I can equate my entrepreneurship story to the story of the state of Israel. Often times Israelis are asked, why is that Israel is so cutthroat on technology and innovation and short of the U.S. basically Israel is the largest country that brings and creates startups, and the answer is usually is because we don't have any other options, right? I mean, we don't have a choice. Everybody around Israel hates it. And if Israel doesn't have an economical edge or safety edge or security edge, then Israel has a high risk of not existing, right? And it's the same thing for an immigrant that came in 2002 at the age of 23, 24 to the US. You have no options. I mean, you have kids that graduated local universities that are connected locally, that have friends that can get them jobs, and you barely speak the language. So getting into serial entrepreneurship was also an event of by default, right? I mean, you had no option and you had to do it. So that's the story for me.
Right. And your three companies, how do you split the time between each? Which one is a priority?
So SetSchedule is the core focus, right? That's my company. That's a company that my co-founder and I built scratch from the ground out. It's a phenomenal prop tech company that serves over 70,000 real estate agents, real estate brokers, and mortgage brokers in the United States. We call it the biggest social network in the United States for real estate professionals. So that's a primary focus. Rentastic is a great accounting software for real estate investors in the U.S. So basically, any property owner that owns 1 to 200 properties would use Rentastic to basically manage their accounting much more efficient and effectively than QuickBooks. And that's a company that we have great management team, and it's pretty self-operated company. So the primary focus during the day is to really love and grow SetSchedule and focus in driving the revenue, because it's a large company with a lot of operations around the U.S. And Rentastic, I would say, it would take 20% of our time on a daily basis.
And tell us a bit more about what is it that you do at SetSchedule? Who are your clients? How do you get them? What's your ICP and what's your plan for this year?
So SetSchedule, I kind of like I like to equate it to basically LinkedIn for the real estate industry in the US. Think about it as a social network where a real estate agent and a real estate broker come together to network, to find referrals, to exchange referrals. But also what makes SetSchedule a better version than LinkedIn is the fact that SetSchedule has not only a CRM software and office automation technology to improve the productivity of a real estate agent or real estate broker, specifically tailored to the real estate industry, it also has a lead marketplace where a real estate agent and a real estate broker can buy the leads and trade those leads or share those leads or refer those leads to local agents in the community that may be better suited or more equipped to support a specific lead. So it's a much better closed-ended app, a desktop and a mobile app that supports the real estate professional industry, not only giving them a better opportunity to network and creating a much better profile and brand recognition for each local agent in their community online and inside the app, but also has a plethora of SaaS products that enables the agents and the brokers to manage the office and acquire leads and grow their book of business.
Right. And how do you grow that one? How do you get your agents to sign up? Is it cold emails? Is it calls, LinkedIn? How do you get that?
So when you market to agents and to brokers and to mortgage brokers, I mean, obviously the addressable market is pretty vast, right? So you almost go with a widespread approach. Yes, at a core of it, we have a lot of outreach email campaigns that that go to the agents. Their information is everywhere on the web. And we also have an inside sales staff that basically demos the product. So when it comes to the advanced lead marketplace, the CRM, the office integration, the APIs, all of that is demoed by inside sales staff that educates the agents and the brokers on their ability to use the tools on the SetSchedule.com software.
And for this one, how many clients you have?
Over 70,000.
Right. And they pay like $10 a month. So around 10K MRR for that one, or?
No, it says the company monetizes in multiple ways. Number one is lead seats or premium subscription to what we call the referral radar. It's inside the SetSchedule.com app. That's an annual recurring subscription fee that the member, the agent or the broker will pay for. There's also different enhancement products, like for example, a profile enhancement, which is basically the way for an agent or a broker differentiate themselves from a UI and design standpoint inside the community, or basically get an alternate pages on the web just from the SetSchedule.com profiles. That enables them to get more leads on the web as well. So that is a profile enhancement product that is $10 a month. That's the red subscription. And so anyways, all in all, I mean, I don't want to waste your viewers' time in running a financial analysis for the breakdown, but it's much more than what you've just said.
Right. And then you have Taskable. How did the idea came to that one? Because there's a bunch of productivity apps out there, and we all had the ideas to create your own because what's out there mostly is confusing. Yours seem to be focus on Asana, I believe. There's the integration there. What does make it different from the others out there?
So Taskable was a great company that we had the opportunity to acquire and partner with. So we took over this business, and it's basically a great, I want to call it like a personal virtual assistant and leverage some level of the AI codes and machine learning that really connects all of your data sources of truth, whether it's your calendar, with your email, whether it's Asana, whether it's other tools that you're currently using to leverage and to use your day-to-day operations, and it aggregates it into a new one singular UI that's called Taskable to manage your task, but not only manage your task, but also create certain level of predictions and automation of reminders to basically simplify your day. And the tagline is, we would like to save you an hour in a day so you can achieve more in 4 days. But ultimately, Taskable does that by creating more of automation and workflow around your information that you connect to it.
Right. And that one, how do you make sure to grow it twofold on a year-to-year basis?
So we have multiple initiatives around Taskable. Taskable is exciting because we're looking to obviously grow the AI component of it, because there's a lot of predictions around around that, or prediction around the information that the user is sharing. So the idea for Taskable for the next couple of years, it's really building and making the product much more solid in terms of AI. The sales aspect of it and the marketing aspect of it will come after. This is not kind of like, a sales pitch or whatnot. You should give it a shot. You can try it. I mean, the listeners can try it. But ultimately, our core focus for the next 2 years is really playing in the arena of improving the AI skill set of the machine to ensure that we create better prediction around day management and task management.
What are your acquisition criterias to get a new startup in your portfolio?
Well, I mean, usually we look at a company that has, there are a lot of investors that are looking for the recurring revenues. There's a lot of investors that are looking for the stickiness and the anti-churn and all this stuff. And, these are all important KPIs. There's no doubt about it. But what we're looking for really is, first of a product we're passionate about. So, we historically speaking focus in the real estate and the real estate adjacent world. So call it prop tech if you want to categorize it or tag it. But ultimately, we've moved from we basically kind of like said anything that makes business easier, we want to own and operate, right? Anything that makes the day today easier with its business development, sales development, personal productivity management, then we would like to kind of like get into it. And that's the reason that we have this portfolio of companies that we're operating.
And nowadays, how do you split your time? Like, what does a day in the life of Roy looks like?
The day in the life of Roy is very interesting. It starts really around 6 a.m., give or take 6:30. And it goes into basically first off spending the first hour with the family, because that's the most important component, right, of your life. But after the first hour and a half, the next phase is really to clear. I'm a guy that likes to clear all of his emails. So I clear all the emails. And that's, by the way, how I close the day as well. So I start by clearing all the emails, and then I go to the regimented AM PM schedules, right? I mean, and usually speaking, we have the tier one meetings, which are weekly meetings, and they're usually no longer than half an hour. And then we have the tier two meetings, which are usually every 2 weeks, right? So, and we segment them to where, the first part of Monday is really to catching up on everything that has to do with biz dev operations, and the future of sales for the following week. And then we usually on Mondays have a lot of meetings that revolve around product innovation and product development. And then kind of like, everything else in between, closing the day usually around 6, 7 p.m., at least in the office, and then repeating itself.
Right. And what are your bigger goals nowadays? I see philanthropy. I see you're also quite vocal about Israel and Hamas nowadays. Like, what are you fighting for?
Well, fighting for Israel first and foremost. We have a big, obviously big and strong opinion over what's going on in the Middle East, because I was born and raised there, and most of the people around me come from the same community. But the goal is, look, I mean, I believe that we're going through challenging times, both politically and economically. I think that there's a lot of bumps in the roads in the next 10 months that are very challenging and very interesting at the same time. I mean, we have elections here in the US. And we'll see how that turns out. So the number one goal is to really stabilize and grow what we've already committed ourselves to. And quite frankly, I think that's the truth of the matter for a lot of VCs, a lot of private equity funds. They can sell you on the fact that they're acquiring, but in truth, they're looking to grow the book of business and companies that they have in place now. So that's our primary focus now. Going into 2025, most likely with better interest rates and with probably stronger economy or growing economy, I'd say. We're looking to have some growth and most likely some exit in 2025, 2026. So again, the focus is really growing our current base of clients and keep enriching the product.
And his Israel and Hamas, how can you fix that?
Well, since you're touching that subject, which I'm very passionate about, there's a very simple solution to things. First off, take the Palestinians and give them a government that's actually not terrorists or have the desire to terrorize anyone. Then take that government and make sure that they have a fiscal budget to exist. And if they have the fiscal budget and they have their government and they have their independence, in theory, they should be good. The problem becomes where there's either a terror organization that runs the show or an organization with no fiscal budget, with no money. It cannot be a scenario where there's independence, but dependency on Israel's capital. And there's no scenario where there's independence, but the independence is ran by terror attacks and terror organization. Blood doesn't solve the problem. Attacks and war doesn't solve the problem. It has to be independence with a sovereign government with a fiscal budget.
Doesn't look that simple on paper too, because yeah, like democratic election nowadays is quite a challenge. I mean, the greatest country in the world was hacked, quote unquote, in their X election. So that seems like a problem. And yeah, when you give money to people that historically didn't know how to manage it, I mean, it's not going to be spent in the right places. There's most likely to be corruption. So how would you fix these two problems?
Well, I mean, look, even though the US had its challenges, presumably in election years, there's still a very good balance of power in a government. And any government in any sovereign country should have a balance of power, right? You have Congress, you have executive branch, you have judicial branch, right? So legislative, judicial, and executive. Similar to that, you have, if you look at the UK, I mean, it's more of a parliament system, but ultimately there's a balance of power. So you can have, again, one organization that runs the country. That's not independence. And in this case, it's Hamas, which is a total, obviously, terror organization that has no desire to build a prosperous country and a prosperous economy. All they care about is the newscast of how many Israelis they murdered or Americans. So the sovereign or the dependence aspect to a government has to depend on the structure as well. And in past years, I mean, in the last thousands of years, countries just copied and pasted that concept. But for example, in Israel, Israel adapted the parliament system from England. So presumably, the Palestinians can have the same model, right? The parliament system, or they can leverage or copy the American system. Either way, balance of power, fiscal budget, and independence for the people, that's really the solution. And that's where we need to get to at the end there locally with Israel. Israel needs to clean the Hamas. They need to get the captives back, and then they need to. There's got to be a solution where there's independence for the state of the Palestinians with checks and balances.
Right. This year, what would be your top goals in terms of the startups you're running, the other causes you're into? What are your top aims?
Well, I mean, I have no control of it, but my top aim is to see Israel in peace within and out of war. That would be the number one hope, right? It's not a personal goal, it's the hope. In terms of businesses, like I said, I mean, the goal is to grow them at least by 50% this year and then see what 2025 has in store for us.
Yeah, it's tough to have full control over things, but I guess there's ways to do it. One of my favorite, I guess, is discussing the issue and trying to find out solutions, brainstorming, and then possibly experimenting on these solutions and see how the market reacts scientifically. Obviously, there's always money behind this. So any social startup that can be started to educate impartially and really trying to fix the solution or to fix a problem, I think it'd be a good way to move forward. So thanks for coming on today, Roy. Where can people find out more about you?
Well, personally, I could go to roydekel.com and learn more about me, but Twitter is a great place to follow. And hey, if they're remotely interested in the real estate industry in the US, they should go to setschedule.com and get all the information from there.